Welcome to Teal Talk, a podcast brought to you by the Ohio Alliance to End Sexual Violence. That's OAESV for short. We're your hosts, Taylor
and Lori.
In each episode, we speak with professionals in the field to dive deep into the intersectional issues that affect survivors in Ohio.
Before we begin, we want to give a content warning that we will be discussing sexual violence and other issues that may be upsetting and triggering. If you need help, please feel free to call our resource line at 888-886-8388 during regular business hours, or the Ohio Sexual Violence Helpline 24/7 at 844-644-6435. Please take care of yourself. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Teal Talk. I am Lori Hamami, your host today. I am the Resource and Communications Coordinator here at the Ohio Alliance to End Sexual Violence. In today's episode, I will be exploring some important developments in supporting our rape crisis advocates. So, OAESV solicited funding from the Attorney General's office to enhance professional development for local programs. So this support allowed us to send advocates to statewide and national conferences by covering registration fees, travel costs, and NOVA memberships. At OAESV, we believe that ongoing training is essential for advocates. And it's a good thing that we feel that way, since we are the statewide training and technical assistance provider. Training not only fosters innovation and best practices, but also helps build networks and capacity and improves our community response. So with this funding, we provided 104 advocates the opportunity for growth by sending them to key events both nationally and statewide. So we sent advocates to the International Association of Forensic Nurses Conference, the National Organization for Victim Advocacy Conference, the National Sexual Assault Conference, and the Ohio Attorney General's 2 Days in May Conference. So join me today as I chat with Ryan Hensley of Project Women, Jenice Tate of the Sexual Assault Response Network of Central Ohio, and Nancy Hashman of Sanctuary Night, as we discuss the impacts of these experiences on the communities they serve. Hi, Ryan. Thanks for joining us.
Hello.
Could you just tell our audience about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Ryan Hensley, and I work for Project Woman located in Springfield, Ohio. We serve Clark and Champaign counties. I've been with Project Woman for about 8.5 months, graduated college in 2023. So I'm new to this field, new to the job, but I really love what I do, and I'm happy to be here.
Ooh, I love hearing about new advocates in the field. Welcome. Almost at a year. Very exciting.
I know.
So if you're only 8 months into the field, was 2 Days in May your first conference?
I think it was the first big conference that I went to. The first one where stay in a hotel, stay away actually from where I'm from.
What motivated you to attend 2 Days in May?
Being new to the field, I really am trying to just be as a sponge as much as possible. And I really thought that it would be a good opportunity to learn as much as I can about some more topics and kind of prepare me to get ready for the summer and then get ready for the next school year. So learning some things that I hopefully could bring into the next school year in terms of prevention.
Yeah, so I know May was, a handful of months ago, so I'm going to ask you to clear those cobwebs from your brain to share about your experience. What were your first impressions when you arrived, and what are some of the key takeaways from the conference that you think you'll be soaking up or applying to your work?
Absolutely. The first takeaway was that it was just kind of impressive and slightly overwhelming. I'd been at the conference center that they were using before, so it was a little less overwhelming, but it still was kind of overwhelming. Trying to find my way around the place. Where do I need to be at what time? So that was a little bit overwhelming. But there were some things that I did take away that I thought were pretty useful, just in terms of working with kids, especially, and calming activities, and just the importance of having grounding exercises when working with students and talking about difficult topics. That was one of the biggest things. And then I think the other one was just the variety in the way that people choose to work in this field and what they do. And it was useful to see the different ways that people work and the different ways that people are doing things that are different from me, and get that perspective and incorporate a few of those things into what I'm doing.
Yeah, so as you're listening to these different perspectives, were there any speakers or topics that particularly challenged your views or presented a fresh perspective?
Okay, the one that really helped give me a lot more perspective was a presentation on brain injury screening and strangulation. And that was something that I'd already known a little bit about, but not the full danger of. And the presentation that we listened to was this woman that did a study basically on brain injury screening. And it was incredibly useful for me to not only see innovation in the field, and see there are new things that can be done that people are doing, but also see this is a really important topic that isn't talked about as much, that might need to be brought to the forefront a little bit more just because of how important and impactful it is.
Yeah, so do you think that presentation inspired any new ideas for you, or like how are you going to take what you've learned at this conference and bring it into your advocacy efforts?
Yeah, absolutely. I gained just more general knowledge of things. So specifically with talking about the brain injury screening and strangulation, there were some facts about it and information about it that I bring and I teach about directly in my classes. It only takes as much pressure as it does to open a can of pop as it does to apply to the neck for strangulation. So things like that were just direct facts and direct things that I could bring into my presentation. And then, as I'd mentioned before, the grounding exercises when it comes to working with kids. I've also implemented that as well, which has been really helpful.
So do you have your sights set on any other conferences you like to attend, or do you think that you would recommend this conference or just conferences in general to advocates?
Sure. I think that 2 days in May is a little bit more geared towards advocacy. And I just realized now I forgot to mention I'm the prevention educator for Project Woman. So it was a little less, I felt, specific towards prevention education. I really would have liked to see some more things based around prevention. I actually participated in a focus group after 2 days in May, and they basically were reaching out to people, especially the first time attendees, and were asking, what do you want to be different? What was good? What was bad? And I was able to give feedback and say, hey, it would be really nice to have some classes specifically for prevention. There were some that were adjacent, but none that were specific. And I feel like that would really help. There are some really great conferences that I've been to. I like to go to as many as possible. Like I said, I'm a sponge. I really like to learn stuff and take in new things. I went to OAESV's Sparking Collective Action conference. That was amazing. I really learned a lot there. That conference was incredibly helpful, not only just in the material, but also in making connections and meeting people. I met some people there that I still have connections with and helped me get information, helped me get the things that I need. There was another conference in DC that I cannot remember the name of, but it was the Technology Summit. It was specifically looking at how technology interacts with our field and what we do. And I learned a lot there. And there were a lot of things that I'm able to take directly into my classes when I'm talking about technological abuse and tell the class, abusers are creative. Unfortunately, as much as I hate to say that, they're creative and they're smart. And these are some ways that I directly saw people say that. And these are the stories. And to be able to share that and share that information has been really great. And the students really appreciate hearing real life examples of how that's changed.
It's awesome that you were able to give that feedback to 2 days in May, and who knows, maybe you will be presenting a prevention workshop there one day. Outside of that focus group area where you were able to kind of share your feedback and frustrations, did you find that outside of that you were able to form any networking type connections with folks across Ohio?
I was not directly, if only because it was my first conference. And I also went with 3 or 4 other people from my organization. So we were kind of more focused on like being together and as a group there. I wish that I did. in retrospect, I really wish that I did. I wish that I reached out and like met some people because I did that at the technology summit that I went to, and I met an amazing group of people. We have a group chat and we still talk about stuff now. So I wish that I had, in retrospect, done that, but I did not. No.
Well, there's always next year. There's always other conferences.
True.
But yeah, I totally get that feeling too. Sometimes the bigger the conference, the more the people, the more nervous you get.
Hmm.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with me about your experience, and hopefully I'll run into you at a conference one day in the future. I didn't get to see you at the OAESV conference.
I'll see you around.
Hi, welcome, Jenice.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Could you start just by sharing a little bit about yourself, how long you've been in the field?
Sure. So, my name is Jenice Tate, and I am currently an associate manager with Ohio Health Co. I've actually been working in the social services field for about 15 years. So, I started off working very heavily in the field of human trafficking, kind of shifted into intimate partner violence, and now I'm with sexual assault, sexual violence, kind of like an umbrella that encompasses everything.
Awesome. Well, it's so exciting to have you on the podcast today. We're going to be chatting a little bit about your experience at the National Sexual Assault Conference. I'm wondering, have you ever attended NSAC before?
Actually, I have not. So this was my first year attending NSAC, and it was an amazing event. They did an incredible job with the workshops that they offered, with their presenters, with the collective sessions that we had together. And so I was impressed with how well the conference went, and I can't wait to attend again.
That's awesome. I was also at NSAC and I thought they did a really good job too. Looking over the workshops you've attended, were there any key takeaways from the conference that you definitely will apply to your work?
Absolutely. So, one of the key takeaways that I received from NSAC was the collaborative effort, right? And so we know that, sexual assault and sexual violence, intimate partner violence, human trafficking, they impact those communities that are most vulnerable differently. And so I love the focuses and the emphasis that were placed on those communities and the collaborative effort to address those issues.
Did you have the opportunity to network with any other advocates or professionals in this field?
I did actually, and in one of the sessions that I attended, just because so many of us are impacted by the housing shortage, right? That is happening, throughout the nation. And so I was able to connect with another rape crisis center in New Jersey, actually. And so we kind of exchanged information. She is very similar to Ohio Health and the rape crisis center that we have here in Sarnco, whereas she also works under a hospital system. And so she was kind of sharing with me just some of the things that they have been able to do alongside the hospital. And so it just gave me some great ideas of some next steps that we could also partake in here at Sarnco.
I've attended many conferences in Ohio, but I think what is so cool about the national conference is connecting with people all across the nation. So, were there any workshops or speakers that challenged your views or presented a fresh perspective that you think we could take back to Ohio?
There were a couple. So I actually am the associate manager for the statewide helpline. So I'm always looking for other ways to make the helpline better, to be able to reach survivors that are in every county in Ohio. So one of the workshops that I attended was for a software program that was utilized with the Boston Rape Crisis Center. They talked about just the different features of the helpline and different things that they're able to do. For example, one of the features that they offered was a callback option for survivors. And so if they call into the helpline and maybe one of our advocates or the next advocate is maybe working with another survivor, there's an option for that survivor to receive a callback once that advocate is available. And I loved that because it ensured that no survivor went without speaking to an advocate. And so that was new and innovative and different. And I was like, wow, it kind of got my wheels turning there to see if maybe that's something that we could offer in Ohio.
Definitely. Yeah. So I hear you're, planning to share what you learned with your team and, hopefully implement some new ideas as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Would you recommend NSAC to other advocates?
Absolutely. Several of our team members were able to attend this year. And so we were really excited about that. And it also brings back a freshness and a renewedness in this work. So I love that about conferences. We brought back so many great ideas and so much feedback to the rest of the team members. Hopefully, everyone would be able to attend, if not NSAC, then another national conference, just to again network, hear from other advocates, see what other states are doing. We always talk about the different obstacles that we all face just doing this work, but it's also amazing to be able to connect and find out solutions. Okay, what are you doing there? And again, as we stated earlier, maybe that's something we can implement here in Ohio.
Yes, I definitely agree with that, like invigorated piece, right? You kind of leave these conferences feeling like, wow, we're not alone in this work. There's quite literally thousands of us.
Right, right. We're all in this together, doing what we can to end sexual violence.
Hi, Nancy. Thanks so much for joining me.
Hi, Lori. How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm wonderful, wonderful.
Could you share a little bit about yourself?
My name is Nancy Hashman, and I am a clinical case manager, certified peer support, and property manager at Sanctuary Night, which is a women's drop-in center for women who are at risk for sexual exploitation or who have self-reported sexual exploitation, and it is in Columbus, Ohio. I've been doing this full-time for about 3 years. I volunteered beforehand for about a year. I am a survivor myself. And then I started volunteering at Sanctuary Night, and people just started believing in me and empowering me and developing me, and never seen my life being what it is today.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm glad that this work found you when it did. What motivated you to attend a national conference?
I just wanted to connect with, other people basically on a national level to broaden my thoughts, get some other ideas and innovative ideas on how to help the women that I serve.
And do you feel like you came away with any important takeaways that you'll be applying to your work?
It's funny. I'm in college right now pursuing a social justice degree. I often feel like I don't know how to serve women of color in this space to the best of my ability because I'm not a woman of color. There were a few sessions where I intently listened to the women of color there to see really what they were up against, what they felt like they were up against, not what I see they're up against. So that helped me a lot. Yeah.
Can you remember any specific presentations that presented this fresh perspective for you?
So I want to say it was a women of color in leadership. I think, I don't remember the name of it, no. But I remember the presentation specifically. It was a couple of women of color talking about women of color in leadership. They talked about what it was like to, face challenges as a woman, period. And then as a woman of color, and just some of the hardships and struggles. And if I'm trying to help the women here, these are the insights that I need to hear.
Yeah, I remember that presentation. It was one of the keynotes.
Yes.
Yes. Would you recommend this conference to other advocates?
Absolutely.
Why? Why the national conference?
There's things happening in different regions of the United States, in different regions of the world that are working. And we either don't know about them or we don't know how to just get that started. in the line of work that I do, like there is a lot of change going on, and there's people that are frontline leaders that are making significant change, and it's working.
So how do you plan to like implement or share what you've learned with your team or your community? Because I hear you saying things like, people might not be comfortable with this, or, I had this challenge of my views. So how do you plan to kind of take all of this knowledge and then bring it back to Columbus?
We meet every Monday. We have like a 3-hour staff meeting every Monday.
And you kind of came back with all this knowledge and information, and we're like, I have things to say.
We have this chat that we all talk in. While I was at the conference, I was like taking pictures of like screens and stuff, like, oh my God, guys. Oh my God. So I'm hoping like a couple of our team, can come next year. We're 2 years old, so like everything's a learning curve right now. It's hard for us to picture having time to set aside to make sure that we're, keeping ourselves educated and all of the things.
Definitely. And that was a huge part of, why OAESV wanted to offer scholarships to attend these conferences, is because capacity building is so important in this work.
Yeah.
Being able to network with other advocates and, going to the national level and seeing thousands of people doing this work and realizing like, wow, I'm not fighting this fight alone.
Yes.
So I hope that you left feeling like reinvigorated in this work.
I did. I definitely did. Yeah. And I've never attended a conference by myself. I have a fiance. I have kids. I have a 2-year-old grandkid. I have this really mental and emotional job, and I'm going to school. I'm a very self-aware person today, and I'm very big on self-care. But going to that conference gave me a whole new perspective on what self-care really looks like. Being there and like being able to focus on just one thing, learning, you know what I mean? That instead of all these distractions, I came back very motivated, invigorated, and refreshed.
Oh, that's awesome. And yeah, I liked what you said there about how your only responsibility or your only job those few days was just to learn, like to absorb as much as you could.
Yeah.
Someone else was taking care of business back home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today. Is there anything you wanted to add before we wrap up?
I just want to say thank you to OAESV, and yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nancy.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Teal Talk. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into intersectional issues affecting survivors in Ohio. If you like what you heard, subscribe and leave us a 5-star rating and review, recommend us to a friend, and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at OAESV and Twitter at Ohio Alliance ESV. If you'd like to learn more about us and the services we offer, sign up for our email list, or read a transcript of this episode, visit oaesv.org.
Want to share a comment or ask a question for a future episode? Just click on the link in the show notes to leave us a voicemail. And remember, we're here to help. Feel free to call our resource line at 888-886-8388 during regular business hours, or the Ohio Sexual Violence Helpline 24/7 at 844-644-6435. See you next time.